conversation. Thank you.
We're now live.
Are we ready?
Yes.
Cynthia, Ganzi?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We are?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so General, you're ready? We can start?
Yep.
Good evening, viewers and listeners on this Twitter space. And we are also live on YouTube and on the Alliance for Transformation's Facebook channel. We welcome you to this edition of Ask the Mugisha Muntu session. And we requested earlier that all of you send in questions, comments, and whatever it is you'd like General Muntu to address. But we'll start with a few issues that have made it in the news this week and the whole of last month when we last had the Ask the Mugisha Muntu conversation. Then along the way, we are going to be taking your questions. Some I already have them on my social media platforms. But yeah, we'll have this conversation for the next 1 hour and 45 minutes or so. And then we will ask questions from the audience and allow a few who want to ask directly to also do that. You're welcome, General. You're welcome. Good evening to you and to the viewers once again.
Good evening, dear. Pleasure to see you again this month of February.
Want to discuss have been grappling with, probably that's the right word. We could start with the government's decision not to renew the mandate of the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, which was communicated on the 3rd of this month. And what catches my attention is the reason they give for not renewing it, which is that that the country has there's strong government commitment to promotion and protection of human rights, that the prevailing peace throughout the country, coupled with strong national human rights institutions and a vibrant civil society, have the capacity to monitor the promotion and protection of human rights throughout the country. So my question, General, is that is this true in your opinion? What do you say about the human rights situation in this country, and that we have the capacity to actually observe human rights ourselves? What is your view and the Alliance for National Transformation's position on that?
Is consistent how all autocratic regimes, the longer autocracies are in charge of power, the more the resistance, the more voices of grievance that come up, the more methods they try to apply to putting a person hostage. And of course, the more it becomes visible in order to abuse of human rights. And the more in terms that raise grievances. And it's consistent, therefore, that any channel through which those grievances will be expressed, whether that channel is domestic or international, that they will they would become targets for silencing. When in regard the internal institutions, literally all of them have been held hostage, they've been quelled in terms of silencing them with different methods. Fear, compromise, and an office like that, of course, it became convenient for the regime. It show like this no longer exists in this country to renew the how empowered to monitor and follow up on human rights abuses. I mean, we just saw recently the commission when it was almost engaging in making judgment as to how some of the voices are from opposition parties, for example, yet their mandate or their role grievances, do investigation diligently, and then expose those who be involved and apply the necessary pressure, use the leverages that they have to ensure that those who have abused individual right, the law can be against them. They don't have that capability or the internal organs itself, which would have stood in, is also in a sense in a state of paralysis. Refusal to extend the UN Office for Human Rights here in Uganda is consistent with that. And I don't think we have seen the end of it yet. Because again, consistent with all of more and more vicious against all forces that would want to counter the abuses of power, the abuses of human rights, until the point when they exit, through explosion or expulsion or methods are used. Eventually, we haven't reached that point yet. The only other way you could see a turnaround is if there is a change of heart internally within an organization which is running power, where you find that if there are containing forces within it, and those who want to see the country being run on the foundation on the basis of good governance principles, if there is such contention, and those who want the country to move in that direction become strong, and then overwhelm the group that will be abusing power, and then take over within that organization. That's always the other way you can see change. We will keep watching and see what happens within the regime. I have got my own reservations as to what is about to happen, because many who would want to see things done the right way are playing, below the radar. I don't think they have the capacity to change the direction of things from within the regime. So basically, I think that's where we're at. We are going to see more abductions, we'll see more rights as democratic number of times. And as the crisis gets worse, now has unfolded in other situations in many countries. From talk to
assistant with the defense human rights violators are sanctioned and human rights violations victims are compensated, and that Uganda has robust laws to protect and observe human rights. But then that begs the question that if they are observing all the human rights as stipulated in the law, why would they be worried that there's an observer other than the observers they mentioned, the government institutions observing those human rights? And maybe if I were to add another question, is what in your opinion is missing? We have these laws that they refer to, we have these institutions. What is missing for us to be at the level of the human rights status that we would like to see?
The Attorney General's assertions are definitely laughable. Just about, I think about 2-3 months ago, when there was going to be an observation of a day when in November, I think it was November 2020 of population within Kampala, when the regime used force to quell the uprising after the arrest of Honorable Chagulanyi. The very fact that an activity like that would be hosted by a human rights organization over another country, I didn't see the comments from the Attorney General's office at that time, but it was quite telling. And many people would have said, okay, why did they not try here? But about a month ago, I recall, I think NUP and the PC or Red Card group who were trying to conduct prayers at Sharing Hall in Zambia. And they were suppressed. They were literally dispersed. So even if anybody had asked why that event was going to be observed in Kenya, and if they had reasoned and said no, if they had tried here, it would have happened, that subsequent dispersal of a prayer meeting in Zambia should have told it all. So anybody who takes whatever the Attorney General was saying is absolutely not serious at all. You know, well, we are not kindergarten kids. We see. I can't even know people educated can defend the ethical. As to what happened concerned every leaders we deserve. So when you have autocratic actors and the population, instead of becoming active and organizing until they tilt the balance of forces into their favor to have a good environment in which they can exercise their freedoms and rights. Until that happens, you know, suffering the consequences of having autocracy. This is not the first time here in Uganda. We have to keep pushing until we create conditions. There are people who are run affairs of government, who recognize that people have got freedoms and rights that they need to enjoy. And the outside, interventions like the UN, like OAU, yes, at times they are good, they can have an observer status, but eventually the burden really lies on us. We have to work with the environment and risks. There are always risks. And we have to keep, applying effort and focus and hopefully discipline until we tilt the balance of forces. Those who want to see stative change in. Yes, Agatha.
what would do differently? What would the Alliance for National Transformation do differently to have the human rights situation in this country improved? What is missing now?
What is missing are the leaders who walk the talk. Because in regard to all nature of the governance principles that would become a foundation for good governance, we all talk about, we have talked about them since 1962. It's nothing new. We'll talk about justice, we'll talk about fairness, we'll talk about equality before the law, we'll talk about equal opportunities, we talk about transparency in the management of but that it's mean, and it has not happened for like 60 years, basically tells us something that needs even no explanation, that the balance of forces is still in favor of those who are driven by selfish motives. And we don't have yet a significant number of actors at different levels congregated in one organized vehicle that can assert what they are talking about. We don't have that. In UNT, that's what you keep building. That's what you keep telling the citizens. You know, some of them say that can't work. Yes, if they don't step in, it won't work. However, nothing will change. You know, people just need to understand that. What you put in is what you get out. You plant seeds of a bitter fruit, you reap a bitter fruit. You want sweet fruit, you plant seeds of a sweet fruit. There are no two ways about that. So you have to keep concentrating on organizing and attracting more and more Ugandans who are public-minded, and they become the majority in areas of governance, so that when they're in power, wherever they are, whether they're in the Ministry of Justice, whether in the Parliament, whether they are in the civil service, that they all conduct the affairs of the offices that they hold consistent with what the law has established, to the value systems that we would have established as a society. I don't see how else it can happen. It can't fall like rain, like at times you see people almost seem to think. It just simply can't happen by itself. People must keep organizing.
I think we are going to leave the issue of human rights now and move to the Serere county by election. Yesterday, the Alliance for National Transformation nominated its flag bearer in that race, Honorable Ali Salaso. I would like you to speak more about it, especially about what Honorable Alaso, what value she brings to Parliament, and why the Alliance Transformation thought she is the right candidate in the Serere by-election.
Thank you. Yesterday, by God's grace, we were able to have a successful nomination of Honorable Ali Salaso as the flag bearer for Alliance for National Transformation. And in her, one, she's our national coordinator. She took over from me when I chose to carry the flag of the party for the presidential elections. Consistent with our constitution, I relinquished that Honorable Ali Salaso runs the organization. And one, it would have been difficult for her not to take up that the flag bearership in an area where she is from. Because engaging in by-elections or even in general election is a form of sacrifice, more so for people who go in not for self-gain, but who are going in as a way of building a new culture. It's a sacrifice. Therefore, there is no way a senior leader can ask the other young people who come in and run for different offices sacrifices, and leaders themselves step up. As fortunately enough, also is a person whom we trust. She has got a track record. she's disciplined, focused, she's bold. You know, she knows when it's no, it's no. When it's something wrong, she'll talk about and expose anything wrong. When it is something right, she'll stand by what is right. She doesn't get intimidated by those who are in power. They are not able to use money to compromise her. They are not able to use security services to cause fear in her. She's always bold in expressing of the people she represents in the smaller area of Serere, where she comes from, the larger regional area of Teso, and at the national level. She has been consistent in that. She's someone who believes in building institutions. She's someone who is value-driven. And therefore, my hope is that the people of Serere recognize that in her, and they vote her to be a voice in parliament, not only for Serere and the Teso, but also for the whole country. For us, when that happens, we would really thank God, and would also thank the people of Serere, because she would be the first member of parliament for Alliance for National Transformation. But also our symbol symbolizes, our symbol is a light bulb, and there is darkness in it. So we need to keep on, shedding light in all areas where we have got value-driven leaders, and UNOHR Mandate is a value-driven leader. And we don't have a monopoly, but as long as we keep on sending of value-driven leaders, we know there are many Ugandans who are also value-driven. So we also encourage those who stand wherever they stand, so that we keep building a critical number of leaders in parliament, LC5, LC3, councillors, who can influence the national consciousness, to have a population which knows that when you are in a position of leadership, one, you must be held accountable to the people who send you. You must utilize the national resources as you are mandated by the law, that you are not above the law. And there are no two ways around that. Once you consistently keep building around those values, as ANT, as we are trying to do, and even others who believe, even if there is, even the few voices that are in parliament, regardless of which party they're in, when they get an additional leader who is also of the same mindset, then they keep building the numbers that we need. The country is bleeding, The country is bleeding. There are so many grievances with the population. There are those who are crying because they've been thrown off their land. There are those who are for justice. There are those who are crying for human rights being abused, people who are abducted, people who are molested, and the levels of poverty in a number of areas, the high cost of education, the high cost of medical services. All that cannot be turned around until we have a majority of value-driven leaders who can coordinate effort and operate at all levels of governance, and we're able to turn around this situation. And therefore, that's why we stand by Honorary Wallis. And yesterday we appealed to the people of Serere. We are going to go in there for the campaigns and keep on appealing to them that they see that point for them to send Honorable Ali Salaso to become a voice of reason, a voice of sanity, a reflector of light where there is darkness, and also someone who can speak and encourage younger leaders in parliament, outside leaders, to know that the direction of the country, for country to move in a correct direction, that leaders need to be bold. The leaders must be able to make sacrifices where it is demanded. That leaders must not allow themselves to be compromised. And therefore, we will do all things which are humanly possible. The rest will live in the hands of God, the one who does the impossible. Yes, Agatha.
Okay. The question I got the most on this issue is about these career politicians, or the lack of that spirit to retire and let the young people take over. So people are saying Honorable Alaso has been in parliament for more than a term before, and that if if you, the leaders of ANT, want to set that example that you want President Museveni and other office holders to leave office for others, why didn't you get someone else to stand in that position? Why a person who has already served in parliament for a while?
I hear people who talk about age, I hear people talk about the new generation, and I have no problem with that. And to be honest with you, so we'll have to continue maybe until they connect and speak on.
Okay, we can continue here until it stabilizes. But the admin says it is okay. I think you're back on. Yes, I think you're back on Zoom. We can continue.
Perfect.
But I think now that it has stabilized, you can just log in again on Zoom. I don't know if that will take you a while, or if we should.
You have to allow me like a minute to see.
Yes, please. I think we'll have to allow you a minute because we have an audience on Facebook and YouTube.
The colleagues on, if you allow us, the colleagues on Twitter, allow me to reconnect on Zoom fast.
Okay. I don't know if there's anything I can be doing in the meantime, or if there's anyone that wants to stand in for general. If there's anyone that wants to ask a question direct here, this would be a good time to take it as we wait for General Muntu to return. But yeah, I have some questions from some of you that I want to ask in the next hour of this conversation. But I have seen two people who have requested to speak. I hope you can ask one question and maybe General Muntu will be returning and we continue with the conversation. So Agaba, you can go ahead and speak. I think Agaba who wanted to talk is off. There's Nsubuga. General, are you back?
Yeah, I'm connecting quite.
On my end, I don't see you on Zoom yet, but if you want, we can continue here as that one also gets sorted.
Okay.
Yeah, there's someone I had allowed to ask a question. He's called Nsubuga Peter, sorry.
Yes.
So maybe let's, Nsubuga, you can go ahead.
I wasn't asking a question. I was trying.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, I think we'll get back to you, General. I can see even on Zoom you are back. Peter was supplementing your point on age, but I think what didn't come out clearly in your answer is if you are saying that that the young people have not offered themselves in this case of the Serere race, or if that Honorable Alaso was your best candidate for one reason or the other. Yes, General, you can go ahead.
No, the issue. You see, the issue I'm talking about is broad. It's not about only one constituency. It's not only about Serere. But in the case of Serere, certainly from a strategic standpoint, we need our leader in parliament. One, she is tested. She has gone through storm. She's someone we know once she's out there, she will be able to project the image of the organization as we build more and more leaders. Because when you are putting up a fight, you must also be, if you are able to get a leader in an area like that, it will be the first time we would have, a member of parliament. You can imagine if, by God's grace, we're able to have Honorable Alice Alaso in parliament. Being a party leader, as we build capability so that the younger people who come in, because there are many other constituencies where they're going to be younger people, where you will not even find that there are older generations with the same capabilities like Honorable Alice Alaso has. So with the younger people, there are many. I mean, when you look at the 240 whom we fielded for members of parliament, 60% were young, 60–70% were young people. So I don't see that they are being closed out, but at the same time, we must also ensure that those who are of an older generation, but he's also a tested leader whom we know is value driven. You don't just edge them out because of younger leaders. You just don't do that. We are fighting for the very existence of our society. What is lacking now is a significant number of people together, regardless of ethnic group, regardless of religious denomination, regardless of gender, but all who are value driven. There is a deficit of those in parties, even in politics. So the more effort we put to bring more and more in, the better. So we're looking at things on from a larger picture. We are not just looking at only just Serere, because even for the younger people, those who will be coming in, they need to be in a vehicle that is consistently building around that motivates us as Alliance for National Transformation. So I don't see any contradiction at all. I have no regrets personally that Honorable Ali Salaso is being fronted as the leader for Serere on the ANT ticket in regard to this seat in Parliament, because to me, I look at it as beyond Serere. I look at it from a national perspective. I look at it from a perspective of building a national vehicle. Because even to fight a war and win, you must have a vehicle. You cannot have scattered individuals and you think they're going to have an impact, even if their thinking is alike. So there are issues we must look at from a strategic point of view, But definitely for creating an environment in which younger people who are value driven, Alliance for National Transformation is an open vehicle for them. And they can also organize in other parties, and if they become the significant number, yes, and shift the nature of politics in those parties, it will be good for the country. So I have no.
Okay, General, thank you very much. I don't know why we went off the space on Twitter. And many people are asking me what happened. So I don't know if the problem is mine, but can you hear me here? General, you can hear me? So I don't know what has happened here that we cannot continue with the space. I don't know if we should leave it and continue here. Okay, so the admin is saying that we are streaming on Twitter, so we can continue. What are the challenges, General, you think you will have in this Serere race, or what are the challenges that are already there?
The ground is good. Actually, from my reading of the situation, the ground is in favor of Honorable Salaso. Because Honorable Salaso has been serving that constituency for quite a while. There are things she was saying in the past. People weren't paying a lot of attention to it. They have seen what she's been saying all along come to pass, and they can see that for them to be well or better represented, they need a leader who is consistent. They need a leader who is bold. They need a leader who is not going to be compromising. So in regard to that, the ground is good. Honorable also, the ground is good for Alliance for National Transformation. But the madness of the regime, the manner in which it operates during these by-elections, during the general election, we'll wait and see what happens. If they apply the same madness they have applied they applied in Soroti, they applied in Moro, they applied in Kasese, and in Kayunga, it would destabilize the opportunities that we do have. But does that mean that they would necessarily win? Not necessarily the case. Because we are people who are always looking at building.
General, I need you to rejoin the space. I am trying to, let me send you the link, because we have many people there that are still asking about it. So let me send you a link and you join and then we continue. I have sent it on your Twitter, in your DM. So I'm going to make a co-host. I think the problem had come from the Alliance for National Transformation page or handle, because I tried to invite them and make them co-hosts again and I didn't get them. I don't know what seems to be the problem. Have you joined now?
Can you hear me now on Twitter?
I have not yet started on. I've not yet started on Twitter. I was trying to. You are not yet on, General. Sorry, listeners. We had the connection problem, so the space had just closed abruptly. General, you need to. I don't know if you got the link I've sent you.
I did, and I see the mic on. I see signals as if I'm speaking. I'm wondering why you want.
Are we on two different spaces? I see.
Where I see I'm on a space here.
I have ended the other one and rejoined this. Okay, yes. Yes.
So
I am on to now. I didn't know that the Alliance group had.
So can you hear me now?
Yes.
So can you hear me on Twitter?
Yes, I can. I just.
Okay. So
yes, General, you can go ahead. We are back. We are back. You can go ahead. I can hear you on Twitter.
Yeah, before this interference, I think we were talking about the challenge.
Yes, yes. I had asked a question about the challenges in Serere that you are likely to face. Yeah.
Yes. We are holding our breath. We don't know how the regime is going to react. But if they apply the same madness they applied in Kasese, in Omoro, in Soroti, and in Kayunga, then it complicates the by-election. However, we are people who operate from the mindset that we are going to meet challenges in the way of trying to do what is right and succeed with it. You don't let those challenges divert your focus. You keep working. You keep looking at success even amidst whatever challenges, however difficult the circumstances are. So we operate always from that perspective. And therefore, even if they act from that angle that they have been applying, where they use the national state security apparatus, they put pressure on the Electoral Commission, we will keep organizing to see how to neutralize that and then see what the outcomes will be. And it will be beyond Serere, wherever else, whether it is in a general election or wherever, we will have to keep doing all the things that are necessary to be done. Operating within however difficult environment there will be. Until that point of breakthrough, we cannot allow to become hopeless, which the regime wants. So we'll keep doing all things which are necessary to organize, keep on building capabilities, and also to keep on raising hope within the population. Because what scares me most is people who reach a point and say, this is an impossible situation. How can there be an impossible situation? If human beings looked at impossibility as something that impedes them from doing what is right, then we will still be existing in Stone Age. People who have made breakthroughs are people who operate, regardless of, if I may use this example, it may seem far-fetched, but maybe it could help. Look at the war between Russia and Ukraine. People are dying on a daily basis. You know why you find rockets and artillery and aircraft are bombing a place? So if you operate from the mindset of saying, you know what, this is an impossible situation, basically it means people would surrender their rights and freedoms and identities and say, okay, we will accept to be slaves. We are not that kind of people. We don't care about how difficult any conditions are, however difficult any conditions are. If people who are dying on a daily basis are able to stand and fight and say, we will fight for our identity, that has happened since history. Every free people fight for their freedoms and rights. If people are not ready to fight for their rights and freedoms, then it means that the choice they make is to become slaves. That's how it has been since the beginning of man, because it is inherent within human beings to be selfish. It is inherent within human beings to want to dominate others. But also inherent within the same human being not to accept to be enslaved. That's why history keeps on unfolding. That's why people keep on advancing. That's why people get freedoms, their rights. That's why civilization advances. That's why you find that the new cultures of governance evolve. Why? Because there are people who are ready to make the necessary sacrifices for that to happen. So, to me, that's the perspective we have. That's the way we act, that's the way we operate, and that's the way we keep doing until things change. Okay, I was doing that from a minuscule spot like Serere, yes, but there are going to be many other, areas of contention, not only by elections. We have just been talking about human rights observation and the trampling of our human rights and freedoms. That's not in a by-election, that's on a general level. You are there, you have your cousin or a brother or a sister or a friend or whatever, someone comes with an unnumbered vehicle and then takes them, and you just find you are completely almost powerless. You are supposed to go and talk to Human Rights Commission, which helps you to raise your voice, they are mute. You go to members of parliament, maybe to a committee, they are playing dead. So how does that get reversed? You get people who are bold to keep on organizing, keep on talking, keep on advancing until society changes. That never happens by accident. It's driven by people who are bold. It's driven by people who believe in themselves as men and women created in God's own image, who are meant to be equal before the law, who are supposed to access equal opportunities, who want to build an environment in which people live, live and act without any fear, as long as they are operating within the law. That's not going to happen by accident. It must be done by people who are ready to see that happen. And therefore, we'll keep on doing the things which are necessary to be done. Serere, yes, we'll go in and we hope we will win. Whatever challenges come, we'll fight to the best that we can as human beings. Things which are beyond our human capabilities, we leave in the hands of God. Yes, Agatha.
Thank you, Jano. Thank you very much. I wanted to ask about the partnership with NUP or the decision by the National Unity Platform to back the candidate of the ANT in Serere. What are your views about it? Is this taking us to what Ugandans have been yearning for, the forces of change coming together and not pulling in different directions?
Well, we reached out and talked to the NUP leadership. We reached out and talked to FDC leadership to find out if there was a possibility for those parties to back Honorable Salaso, because we knew that Honorable Salaso was a formidable candidate in her own right. And the NUP leadership, and we thank them for that. I think they went into their own internal meetings and did analysis on the ground and at the national level, and they made a bold decision because they already had their own candidate. They made a bold decision to ask their candidate to step aside and they back Honorable Salas. We appreciate that and we are thankful for that. FDC leaders were not yet in a position to have their candidates step aside from their own analysis. And to be honest with you, I believe they must have credible reasons why they didn't do that. I don't blame them for that. Even what has happened in Serere for NUP to back ANT will not necessarily be uniform in every by-election, may not be necessarily uniform in the whole general electoral exercise. It is something we hope for, it's something we need to work for and reach a point where we can agree on where we can field joint candidates, or even in areas where we may not necessarily field joint candidates. But wherever we don't field joint candidates, I don't think it should be a basis for any opposition party to go on the neck of any other. It would be wrong. One, every party has got a legitimate reason to field, because they may want to build their infrastructure in that area. They may want to position themselves for the next election. Whatever consideration they may have, that's legitimate for them. To me, what we need to avoid as opposition parties is to avoid issues that generate friction on a national scale, and therefore divert us from the strategic issues and bring what would ordinarily be managed as a tactical issue, and it becomes a source of friction, and therefore creates unnecessary animosity amongst us. And then we cause a situation where many people want change in this country. They're tired of getting sucked into quarrels ourselves. We're pushing the population between a rock and a hard place. They see a regime which is inept, which is corrupt, which is riding over them roughshod, putting a boot on their necks. And then the hope would be the opposition, and they see us quarreling all the time. What kind of human beings would we be, or leaders, if we don't recognize that? So to me, I don't have any problem with the FDC, for example, filling their own candidate. They must have made their own analysis and decided so. And I will keep on calling our leaders in NT not to see any reason why there would be any quarrel, why there would be any friction in regard to that. We need to focus on building our capability and to see that Honorable Ali Saraso go through. That's not going to be the last by-election. Maybe there'll be other by-elections. There are times as NT when we have decided, without other parties approaching us, not to field. I know clearly, for example, in Kasese, in the last election, we as ANT, FDC didn't approach us, nobody approached us. We made our own analysis and said, you know what? Kasese is a stronghold of an opposition party. We have got our own problems with FDC. However, we must look at things from a strategic perspective. Kasese is in the West. So we should not allow the movement to expand into an area which is already captured by the opposition. So we decided not to field in any position where there was an FDC official. We didn't field, and there are many who are coming for us to field them as candidates. I met a number of them here at our headquarters, as well as here at Uganda Road. We refuse to field in the 6 constituencies where FDC had 6 members of parliament. We refuse to field at the level of LC5 because it was under FDC. We refuse to field in the 32 councillors where they were of FDC, 27 sub-county chairpersons. We never fielded there. But we decided that in Kasese, where there is NRM, even if FDC fields, we also field, and we fielded there. So we didn't have a problem. We wanted to conserve where the opposition already was. So there are times when we have different considerations. Serere is not the last by-election. Even as we go into the future, in other by-elections, general elections, as long as we are open to discussions, as long as we are open to different considerations, as long as we are open to different considerations and interests of different parties, we can hammer out ways which can work for all of us. Case by case. So I don't see any problem whatsoever in regard to Serere. NUP is supporting us and we thank them for that. We have no friction with the NUP. We relate, we discuss issues. We never tell them what to do, what not to do. Anytime we meet with them, we do analysis. We tell them that we think these are the different scenarios. And they also tell us their own observations, their own perspectives, how to move, where to move. We respect the choices they make. That's the same way we always want to relate with other parties. When FDC has invited us, we have gone there. We normally tell them, this is what we believe. This is the direction we want to move. This is the way we will do things. We don't backbite them. We don't provoke them. We don't undermine them. That's who we are as Alliance for National Transformation.
Okay,
That's
thank
what
you.
we keep to.
I would like us to tackle
The moment we have a significant number of people.
Were you still saying something, or should I continue with the next question?
Move the next question. I have no problem.
Okay, so I believe we have sufficiently discussed the Serere question. I wanted us to discuss education before we go to the audience and to look at their questions. So this week, parents have been taking children back to school, and with all the issues that come with that, there has been talk of regulating school fees in both private schools and government-aided schools. That those talks have fallen flat once again. Is there anything that can be done to regulate school fees in an economy that has always prided itself in being a liberal economy that only responds to forces of demand and supply? How can the government go about it, or how would the ANT go about the education question in this country?
That would have a deep impact. Yes, there are those which can be taken, but most of them would be cosmetic. In the only way I see that this situation can be reversed, because one, we have two situations here. One, we have government schools which charge, some of them even charge more than what the private schools charge. Two, we have got a discrepancy in terms of standards of education. There are some government schools which offer very good quality in the category of Bundo, Buntare, of Namagunga, Chisubi. They are the ones who at the same time who charge high. Then we have got private schools which also have good standards of education, who also charge high fees. Then we have got a significant number of other schools, private as well as government, which may charge low, but whose levels of education are poor, without doubt. So the only way you can reverse that is to have injection of resources into government schools first and foremost, to ensure that all government schools have got good teachers, have got good libraries, have got good laboratory equipment, have got good environments for teaching, that the teachers are very well remunerated. So the standards of education in government schools are good, and that the investment of government is to the extent that the schools don't have to charge high fees. In our time, schools were those really who had no other alternative, who couldn't do government schools, because the performance in government schools across the whole country was good. And therefore, going to a private school was an option which was not, common. Now there are two parallel systems. People who have got money are able to send their schools to good government schools, or if they choose to send them to private schools. The people who don't have money, take their children right from primary to UPE school, USE school, and then they got even to university, all right. But because of the poor foundation of education, I bump into quite many. Ill preparation at the foundational level of education. Come again? Come again? Did you ask a question?
No, I was saying we can't hear you on Twitter. I don't know if you are out of the space or something. But can you unmute again on the space?
Accepted it. I hope that resolves the problem, right?
You unmute. Is your mic muted on Twitter space?
The
Because I
mic is
can
on.
hear you here. I
The
can
mic
hear
is
you
on.
on
My
Zoom,
mic on.
but not on Twitter.
My mic is on.
Okay,
Twitter.
so let's continue now.
Can you hear me now on Twitter?
No, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if others can hear you. I would like the host of the Alliance platform to confirm if they can hear you, because me, I cannot. I could be the one with the problem. Can hear you. I would like the host of. Okay, so General, I can see you on again. Unmute your microphone on the space. Of the Alliance platform to.
Can you hear me on Twitter?
No, I still can't hear you on Twitter, but I think we should continue as it stabilizes. I could recap for them the answer or what they missed on the space.
They sent me a co-hosting request and I've responded. I hope that resolves the problem.
Please unmute now. I can see your microphone, but it's muted. Unmute your microphone, Jano.
Can you hear me now?
No, you are muted on Twitter. Unmute your microphone.
You can hear me now, right?
Yes, yes, you are back on. Yes.
So I was saying the short-term interventions may just simply be cosmetic. Some of the proposals from government, I don't see how they can enforce them. One, some of the reasons why some of the schools are asking for fees is to make them sustain themselves. And maybe let me come from this side. Before government puts pressure on private schools, they first need to resolve the question of high fees in government schools. And hopefully they will be able to do that and maintain the standards in those schools. Because I think the first thing that needs to be done is to lift the schools which have got low standards so they can have high standards. Without affecting those who already have high standards and those that have low standards to reach the levels of where those which have high standards in government. And when you have that done across the whole country, then when the fees of government schools are manageable, the ones in private schools cannot attract students. In that regard, you don't even have to force the private schools to lower fees. Basically, they lower them because many people will be going to government schools. Once they have got good teachers, once they have got good educational environment, once they have got resources, well-stocked libraries, internet services, and laboratories, and all the things which are necessary for a good educational environment. That's why the government needs to focus. Some of the proposals they are making are knee-jerk. They are temporary. I doubt whether they will work. And then, like the primary, right from the primary, because now we're talking about secondary. Primary, how on earth? Because the grants which are given per student in the primary is below 20,000 Uganda shillings a year. In secondary schools, I understand it is below 40,000 per student a year. How on earth do you expect even a headmaster to run a school where government is giving like 30,000 shillings per student per year? Expect them to do miracles or what? You know, those are some of the critical issues which one would have hoped the parliament would be attending to. But you have got a parliament that is full of people who should not be anywhere near an office where there are needed to be public-minded people. But that's our politics as we speak now, because politics has become a refuge for those who are looking for money. And the people who are public-minded are hiding because they fear to step out and fight. So we are stuck in that situation. And complaints are not enough. We may complain the high heavens until people who are public-minded step out and they become the majority in the arena of politics. We will keep seeing all these crises over and over. In the educational sector, in the health sector, in infrastructure, everywhere. So that's the stark reality. We have to deal with it.
Wanted to ask two more questions on that issue, but I had promised that the second hour would be for questions from the audience. I see some people who have requested to speak. I'm going to allow one or two, but also I have some questions in my inbox, so we can take the questions now. I have allowed Prince, someone called Prince. If you can unmute your microphone and ask your question, but in a very short, just be precise. And as Prince comes, I will ask a question I got earlier from someone who does not want to be named. We have an anonymous listener who is asking about the NRA. So the question is, the NRA used child soldiers. Their innocence was taken away from them. After the war, many were forced into Kadogo schools or sent to fight Kony. But there is no former NRA child soldier who is now a general. The question stops there, but I think the person wants you to comment on that. There are two questions, but the other one, which is related also to NRA, let me finish it, is the use of the kafun during the war, especially on civilians who were deemed to have betrayed the war. What are your views on those two?
Well, on the first of Kadogos, really, I don't have statistics because I can't track and know those who are in Kadogo. Because one thing, at least immediately after the war, we created schools. We created the school of Kadogos in Bara. We created a school in Masindi. We focused on ensuring that the Kadogos got good education in that primary, secondary, and I can't. It would need someone who could do research to know those who went through those Kadogo schools, where they are at. The only one whom I know now, I don't know, well, maybe one of these days I try and learn from him, Paula Awich, Major Paula Awich. I don't know, he possibly would know all other Kadogos where they are at. I don't know whether there are those who made it up to higher ranks of colonels and various generals. I have no understanding, to be honest with you. So I can't be a good source of information in regard to that, but it would be interesting to know, because definitely those who had capabilities in terms of being talented in the educational area, they had access, and many made it to university. What I don't know really, which would need someone to do maybe research about that, and they would give us public information. It would be good for everybody. As to the Kafuni, where people talk about wars of liberation, and I can tell you, wars of liberation can have a lot of costs. The civilian population, on armies, as long as there's political contention, as long as a society has not yet managed to build a new culture on the basis of which political issues are resolved, costs lives. We had cost lives in the 60s, we had cost lives in the 70s, in the 80s, even now as we speak, we still have costs of lives. So anybody who is focused on the past, in whichever period of the 62 years, my advice would be let's concentrate on how to be better as a society. Because even where we are heading, you don't know whether there won't be more costs. One hopes that we learn from the past and see how to shape the future to be better. Because if we don't shape it to be better, I can tell you what has happened in the past could easily be gauged as kindergarten stuff compared to what could happen in the future. Because we are seeing countries that have gone through heavier costs. The one who asked, I hope that's where he's heading as well. Does that mean that we should erase what happened in the past? Absolutely not. That's why we have people who involved in these wars write books. That's why we need researchers to write. So that whatever is unearthed, that can be a point of learning. That's the way I can respond to that.
Okay,
Thank you very much. I have unmuted two people, Derek Wandera, he's a journalist at Daily Monitor, this one I know him, and Ronnie. So Derek or Ronnie, whoever unmutes first. I don't know who will. Yeah, so Derek, please go ahead.
Thank you, Agatha. I hope I'm being heard loud and clear.
Yes.
Okay, Jenna, thank you for that elaborate and serious way of answering questions. It's just been long that we haven't met, but we are friends. Jenna, one of the questions I have, actually I have one question, and it's in the relationship between ANT and FDC. The reason FDC gave for not backing Honorable Ali Salaso in the Serere by-election was because of the long-lasting rift or unresolved issues that the two parties have. I know you for a person who loves reconciliation, and it's one of the things that we've talked about most cases. I'm wondering, is there any will to resolve the issues between FDC and ANT, and if any, how far has that gone? But also, how long will these rifts keep dragging? Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. was in a state of paralysis, and the country was not going to keep waiting for us as FDC to choose which way to go. And well, when Honorable Boy won, I accepted it. I congratulated him. 2 weeks after that, I went and handed over peacefully. I never contested the election. I mean, if we were just the ordinary politicians here around who go into politics for self-advancement, we could have simply said, we didn't worked out in a manner to leave FDC intact, to be built around the strategy they believed in. So, and I keep telling them, the moment that strategy works, before what we're pursuing works, that's what everybody wants. If FDC was to capture power next week through defiance, that's what everybody wants. What everybody wants is change in this country. So where is the problem? I don't see what the problem is. Does that mean that FDC cannot field where we have fielded? Of course it can, as long as it doesn't become a source of friction. And that's what we as NT intend to do, not to make it a source of friction. We shouldn't, because FDC must have had its reasons why it fielded. Doesn't mean tomorrow we can't field why FDC fields, but we would have to engage with them. There are times, as I've already indicated, in the whole of Kasese, we didn't field. FDC didn't ask us not to field. It was deliberate, it was conscious, it was purposeful by us. So, Derek, I don't think there's any problem at all, in as far as I'm concerned, from a level of strategy between us and FDC, because FDC is driving a vehicle and it can drive it in any direction it wants. We are driving a vehicle in a direction we want to drive it. The problem that there was is we were in one vehicle and each side was struggling to take the steering, and it was chaotic. So everything is at peace with what they are doing. We are at peace with what we are doing. So I don't see any problem at all myself.
Thank you, John. I had to cut you short because I thought we are going back to the things of 2017, but I hope you have answered. Derek? Okay. I don't know if you answered Derek's question, but I am thinking from what I actually even saw on Twitter in regards to their support or their refusal to support Honorable Alaso. The problem seems to be what you think was the solution of you moving out to let them drive in the direction they want. The problem that I saw someone putting on a tweet of Honorable Alaso that I retweeted yesterday was that until she comes back to apologize for leaving, yeah. So it seems what you think was the solution to the problems you have with FDC is actually the problem, but you can later get back to that. For now, let me allow someone called Ronnie to ask their question, and then after Raymond Mujuni can come in. Ronnie, if you can unmute your microphone and ask your question or comment.
You are. Yes, you are.
Thank you so much, General, for your time. Personally, I'm a son of one of the freedom fighters.
Ronnie, you are just a bit low. Your volume is down. Yeah. I don't know if you can.
Am I clear? Am I clear there?
Yeah, I think we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm a son of one of the so-called freedom fighters who joined in 1994. And he eventually rested, maybe died in 1997, but he was unhappy. General, to me, lately I see you being the army commander of the forces for 9 years. Historically, maybe probably after the Bush. We are seeing other generals like maybe probably Sejusa or whatever, those people who try to join the political era being tortured, the likes of General Kare Kaihura being tortured, but you are untouchable, pure as you. In the political world today, we are seeing these so-called Muslim men trying to take away the junta, or maybe trying to throw away the dictatorship, being spied on, and they're being taken to Serere, tortured, or maybe the tortures you're seeing on television, and what you're not seeing is actually the most. How can we tell, or maybe how can we confirm to the Ugandans, or maybe the citizens, that you're not into a game? How come the rest of the generals are actually tampered with? For you, you're not tampered with. Imagine an army commander for 9 years, but you're not tampered with in any state or maybe any state. How can we get convinced that in actual sense, you're not part of the so-called 7, or maybe, you know, something like that? That's what I'm trying to explain. So
Yes.
that is my simple question.
I don't know if Jen got your question,
I did.
Ronnie.
Don't insinuate, just ask your question. Did you get it, Jono?
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. I meet that question all the time. One, I mean, there are different methods, and I think some of the examples used are not applicable because, like General Kale was being run over when he was in the government itself. So it's not like he was in the opposition. Maybe he would have used examples of people who are in the opposition. That's the example normally they use. They talk about Dr. Chizavezje. They are talking about, for example, a number of leaders who have been in the opposition, who've been arrested, who've been molested. Well, I basically use two ways of explaining this. One is I use different methods in terms of how I prosecute whatever I believe can be the strength that can move this regime. And maybe that's what makes me remain out of harm's way. I can tell you for sure that if tomorrow I went to City Square and I started mobilizing masses of people to move to Parliament or to move to State House, I kill them down. Why? Because I believe in a different approach. Does the approach of mobilizing people to contest for what is legitimately theirs incorrect? No, it's correct, it's legitimate, I believe in it. Some people have used it effectively in many countries. In Egypt, they did it. Recently in Sudan, even in the 70s, they did it. Those who are inclined to it, I don't blame them. I don't question them. And it is wrong for the regime to step on them because the methods they use are legitimate. But I don't use that approach. I use a different approach. So that puts me in a vulnerable position for people to think that because I am not arrested, I therefore must be a government operative or an agent. That's what at times they used to call me when I was in FPC, they used to say I was a mob. And that's why I keep saying, you know, leave things to time. Time explains a lot of things. And to me, on my side, consistency is what explains me. Because eventually, when what we are trying to do becomes self-evident and actually becomes a significant factor in changing the future of this country, and people who suspect me now will turn around. In the meantime, they have got a legitimate reason to stay, you know, believing the way they believe. Now, those who don't believe that I am genuine, you don't have to work alongside me. There are many other people you can work alongside with. Those who trust me, please, we can work together. With time, people understand me. I have no problem One way, drawing back to history, when I went to the bush, they thought that I had been sent as an agent of the UPC government. So to me, this is nothing new. But eventually they recognized that I was purposeful. I was a disciplined, focused person who works around what I believe in. And eventually, as you know, I rose up in the ranks, you know. But when I went, people couldn't understand how I, Muntu, the son of UNOHR Mandate, a friend to Dr. Milton Obote, could go and fight against the UPC government. It just simply couldn't understand that. Even now, that's why many people don't even understand me in that regard. But I'm not going to change my methods. Because if I wanted to be seen as legitimately in opposition, there are a few things that I know I can do deliberately and be arrested. I'm not going to do that. I don't do things to be right. Whether people understand me or they don't understand me, to me that is not the issue. I do things I believe in. So my friend, I didn't get your name. If you don't trust me, please don't even come near me. Work around the people you believe in. Those who believe in me, we will keep working together. And time will prove who each one of us is.
Yes. The person who asked is called Ronnie, but maybe I'll ask a follow-up question on his behalf. When you say you won't change your methods, isn't that being rigid when the methods are not yielding results and they're supposed to be evaluated and probably changed? But don't answer me now. I think let me first bring in Raymond Mujoni so you can combine those two questions. Yes, Raymond, you can unmute your microphone and ask.
Thank you so much for your time. Mine is really a straightforward question. What is needed in Serere? What does the party need to win the Serere by-election? And how can we communally contribute to it as the people on this?
We have had the opportunity to have a number of young people who've been working on the ground from within the region itself and a few from headquarters. So in terms of personnel, we are well covered. Our biggest challenge is logistical, is financial. So any good well-wisher would want to see Kunabari Sarasa go through, any well-wisher would want to see Alliance for National Transformation have its first member of parliament. In that parliament, so can have a toehold, financing and logistics would be one good thing. Of course, even those who are in areas of influence, I don't know whether there are people here who have any level of influence, like within security, within government, to wake up and chart a new direction. Really, the movement which has got 340 plus members of parliament, why do they make these by-elections become like a death or life matter? You know, regardless of which party is competing, let there be in a by-election expression of people to know that yes, we want to vote for NUP or FDC or NT, and they do so as a way of even reducing the temperatures which are in this country where we are is not good. So those who can wield influence in the, you know, up there in parliament, in cabinet, wherever, start charting a new direction. You know, we don't want something to trigger, you know, a sense beyond the desperation there already is. So in that regard, yes, I think, and also publicity. So able to publicize, do analysis on the ground, publicize what's going right, publicize what's going wrong, put those who are abusing what is supposed to happen in the election, don't fear, don't think that there's nothing, you know, we can achieve by that. Keep at it, you know, keep on building consciousness within the public. And Agatha, I do evaluation all the time. If there's anything I do, even before I try to do analysis of other people, of other situations, I concentrate a lot on myself. Whenever I'm doing anything, I want to find out what I'm doing. Is it the correct thing? I look at the general situation. And why I keep doing the things I do is because I do a lot of in-depth analysis of the things that I do. I don't just hang on to them just because of stubbornness or because I am narrow-minded. I try to be broad-minded. Two, I am actually very flexible. Where I find I'm wrong, I can change direction. But where I find I am right, even if I am one and a million people on another side, I remain one on that point, and I won't shift because a million people on the other side.
Thank you, General. Remy Bahati, you can also unmute your microphone. And yeah, we'll give everyone a minute to, I mean, those we can afford to give an opportunity. But Remy, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Professor and the Alliance Uganda. My name is Remy Bahati. I am a journalist based in the US, but very much interested in the conversations that are shaping our young democracy in Uganda. General Muntu, I listened attentively as you explained to this crowd here the reason your party could not back a young person and actually opted for Alisa last. So, General Muntu, I've interviewed you a couple of times. And in these conversations, you have stressed rule of law.
Yeah.
You know, in the opposition, many times, not once, not twice, the opposition has called out Rebecca Kadaga for abusing affirmative action. And this was a big deal for the opposition during her speakership with the late Jacob Olanya. I remember, like, it may not have been you, but the top leadership, the echelons of the opposition in Uganda were actually calling her out to step down for another person. Today, you're campaigning for someone. I mean, I understand you want to have the member of parliament as a party, but you're campaigning for someone to represent constituents. She has represented for nearly 20 years, because I know Alisa Lasso is a 3-term legislator. She was also the chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. So you are campaigning for that person today. Are you not tearing at the fabric of a democratic society if you have the audacity to call Kadaga out for abusing affirmative action, but you're campaigning for the same person who is in the same category with Rebecca Kadaga? And no offense to Honorable Alisa Lasso. I just want to hear this from you. Then two, this say about your character as General Mugisha Muntu and a democratic advocate, someone who is always calling out General Museveni, step down, you've overstayed in power. I just want to hear this from you. Thank you so much, Agatha, for giving me this platform. Looking forward to hearing that response, General.
Yes, I hope you are well in New York or Washington. Well, really, maybe we've had a bit of a misunderstanding on this issue. Let me clarify. One, in regard to General Museveni, why we always tell him to leave is because they removed the term limit, which to me I thought was a safety valve in the Constitution. And to me, it wouldn't have mattered as however long he would have been in power if the moment he hit the second term, he bows out, regardless of
parties, because parties are the vehicles of governance. Therefore, the extent to which parties are democratic is the extent to which the country will become democratic, because the parties are the ones which run affairs of government. Therefore, in NT, I don't see where we have yet slid from that path. Because when you look, for example, on what happened in Serere, if I may use that as an example, one, the by-election came because the incumbent, it was, so immediately the process came vacant. The number of people who went in for based on diagnosis, because initially she didn't want to run, which she did. She had an announcement that effect. And then we were about to take a decision here at headquarters. Then we understood that there was some expressed interest. We actually voted making further advance that. Set up a team, 3 people that were going to go and meet with the leaders of the ground, do analysis, and therefore make a decision as what to do. Because initially when Honorable Alice was came out in the press, we knew that we had only Honorable Alice until that other young person who came out said that wanted to run. So when the team was about to settle, the person who had the meeting team of 3. And in the meantime, find out the date which we had proposed for the team to go and meet Linus, meet Honorable Islands. When they engaged, they found that Linus had actually withdrawn from the race. And the chairperson of the meeting spoke with Linus to make that confirmation before we would confirm Alaso as the flag bearer. I talked to Linus myself. And once we confirmed that he had, in view of the time, in view of a number of other considerations, that decided to step aside, that's how we went ahead to announce Honorable Alaso as the flag bearer. So when you are talking about democratic governance, continue trying to establish systems of governance within ANT that promote democratic governance. But let me also tell you one thing. You can't build democracy without democrats. And one of the things that you and me and anybody who wants to see democracy flourish in this country is concentrate on building democracy in politics. Talking about democracy is one thing, is another. So as we proceed this conversation, we will need to keep it live and keep on discussing. As parties contend for changing power, they also have to prepare themselves in how they are going to create an environment in which democracy actually serves good governance. Rather than what we have had from 1962 until now in the whole of Africa. Because I don't know in any part of Africa where we have not about democracy. Even in Uganda, as we speak, we don't about democracy. So why is not white? So we should not remain trapped in the topical. We need to become a significant that even when the to the contrary for democracy, we can talk about it. All of us we talk about. But thinking is something that we need to work on. I could give you my own experiences, the things I'm not there. At one time, the opportunity to have a deeper conversation on the building of democracy on this continent, or at least in Uganda. I can tell you, without speak about the people who are politics in Uganda. That's my contribution.
Thank you, General.
Very humbled being on the space this evening. To you, General, and all others in the platform, what gives us the confidence to keep engaging Museveni in the barbaric elections? In fact, sometimes I call them selection processes that he has always put forward. Thank you.
General, if you can Daniel, please unmute your microphone and please take just a minute.
Greetings, everyone, and thank you so much for this opportunity also to engage with the general. My question is just to think about the general politics of Uganda. Do you see that this generation of Ugandans has grasped the ideas of political parties, that you can put in place the structure that you're trying to, and Ugandans are going to buy into, let's say, ANT hypothetically, and say if the general says, you know, he's retiring from ANT, those structures are going to stay in place. Do you see this generation of Ugandans actually as being able to buy into the idea of political parties, but they following individuals? To say that we're supporting Mugisha Muntu, we're supporting Kiza Besigye, or we're supporting Honorable Chagulanyi. Is that where our politics is today, that to make an argument that we build structures, that's not where Ugandans are? That people are so desperate for change right now that they don't have the patience to wait for the structures to be put in place when they see young men who are not committing any crime being dragged up to their homes, but just for engaging in politics. Do you think that Uganda has moved beyond that patience of building structures, that right now they're just looking at individuals and they're saying, can General Muntu deliver us to the promised land? Can Kiza Besigye deliver us to the promised land? Can Honorable Chagulanyi deliver us to the promised land? That we have moved beyond, similar to probably where you were in the early 80s, where Museveni and his team said, you know what, enough is enough. At what point past that threshold in the early 80s and the determination? You know what? No matter what we try under this system, it's not going to be possible to build the structures to dethrone Obote or Tito Lutwa. We have to go to the bush. At what point do you pass that threshold? And do you think this generation of Ugandans has also passed that threshold where they say, you know what? Even when we try to be civil, even when we try to be diplomatic, we organize our meeting, we try to mobilize people at the community level, we are being dragged into safe houses, tortured for committing no crimes, but for being civil. So, General Muntu, how do you convince Ugandans that they can be civil and not be dragged into safe houses? Are we crossing that line? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. So, Tom, let's take Tom, and then General can respond to the three of you. Tom Rukidi, can you unmute your microphone and ask your question? You should respond to those. We can see if we can bring in them again. I am so sorry about that, guys. I don't know why the space abruptly came to an end, but let's wait for General Muntu to come and conclude. Your thoughts and responding to the questions we had, and then we can conclude. I think I allow this gentleman called Yagwa, who had requested a long time ago, but first respond to what we already had.
And then, sorry, we got, I don't know what happened. I got, suddenly got knocked off the space. I was trying to reconnect. So let me wind up. The other colleague had asked always the same question, saying that how do we keep on trying to build the younger generations of young people now? They understand we find it necessary that we continue building parties in an environment. The answer is yes. Much as the evidence that we have so far, the majority of the people want to organize individuals. But if you know how, if we insist on building parties and the vehicles of governance, and also gets into culture, which is wrong. When we go to the grassroots, the question I keep asking people, it's okay, you can associate with individuals because maybe of their time, maybe because of whatever, but we are not permanent futures on this planet as human beings. I keep asking them, we are building NT, for example, now. If God recalled me tonight, can I say, oh, I'm still building NT? Please, I must first finish building it. So what does it mean? One individual, and that leaves this planet, they remain stranded. That's why those of us building the parties as vehicles of governance, why give the time to still this to know that it's when we all these things come pattern, but so the culture of governance. Want to be, but they are not necessarily That's why we keep insisting on the things that we keep doing. It's not easy, but I don't see it. When we are convinced that what we are doing is right, we read history. All people who have made impact in history, who have made society progress from one level to another, have always swam against the tide of the times. So the tide we are swimming is in our time. So we shouldn't comply because of the resistance we need, because of the nature and mindset of our country. We must, overwhelm it and process build a new culture. The culture around building institutions. That's why I look at it myself. I'm not going to play back. There are many guarantees, but Because the more we gravitate towards each other, the more we coordinate, we'll succeed in what we're trying, regardless of the culture being against what we're trying. I think that was the last question. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I don't know if you responded to the question from the noob person in Kasese.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to pass on to explain. That in spite of all the impediments that she puts in our way, we can't give up because that's what they want. They want all of us to give up. So we say there's nothing we can. You cannot on the streets. You cannot go through electoral processes. Others would think of maybe because all these skills. That's why some of us who believe that go involved in it, do all the things that are necessary to be done. Even when you don't succeed that day, continue the next week, the next month, the next year, until you build the momentum to shift the balance of force in favor of those who want to see this country go in the same direction. I don't see any other reason.
Thank you, General. I'm going to allow these two people because they have requested earlier, Biakwa and Umrupidi, and they are the last speakers.
contribute that. Resources to contribute that. Even many districts would have desired to be everywhere within the next 2 years. Every district, we have only gone through a few. The experience we have had, it is good. The people on the ground are simply looking for good leadership and they want to participate in changing the direction of things in this country. So we have to engage with them. And for those who raise the resources, actually not only for those of LG. My view is that anybody who wants to change the nature of politics in this country, whatever party you believe in, fuel the critical number of people who believe are going to be who are honest, people who even when they who will walk the talk, who will not kill their and start lining their own pockets. You have to build them to become the majority in the parties of governance. Because every party will do what it has. If 7 leaders out of the party leadership, the different levels, is of people who want to steal with the parties, they're going to steal. If the 7 are people who want to build on good governance principles, that's where the party becomes. So it's a responsibility of every person in this country, either direct to influence what goes in the parties or influence it indirectly. It is our responsibility. I don't see any two ways about that. I'm not sure. Thank you for the patience to hang around. Thank you for all those who have asked.
A question that you did not clearly respond to, right? This question about what help or support you might need. When you say that it's financial, you did not indicate where those who might be able to contribute financially can contribute.
We have two numbers. I don't know how I can. We have been trying to propagate them over the whole social media. We have which is MTN. They are the ones that are using basic exercise. I don't know how I can take them down on this space.
They have been sent to me.
Yes.
Let me read them out for them.
Please.
It is the Airtel number is 0701 114 0701 212 114, and then the MTN is 0770 832 992. I'll read it again, 0770 832 992. But if it helps, I can, after this conversation, post them on my timeline so that whoever wants to contribute can find them there. Thank you, General, for your time this evening. Thank you to all the listeners. We are so sorry for the technical issues we got, but we thank you for staying with us, and we'll have the next conversation next month. Please, we thank you for your support always. Thank you, General. Thank you to the main team of the Alliance. Have a nice weekend, everyone.